Good evening, teachers. Alcides, Alcira, Edgar. Teachers Eliana, Noemi, Pedro, and teacher Veronica. Good evening, Piaget Educa. Well, teachers, I hope everyone is fine, and now let's start. Teacher Alcira, teacher, we didn't finish exercise number 25 until 28 last Friday. Are we going to finish them today? Okay, teacher. Just a second. Good evening, good evening. Just a second, teacher Eliana, okay? Thank you. One moment. Last Friday, we review information. Remember, teacher Alcira? We review information about different topics. Friday. Good evening, good evening. Yes. I'm talking about classes. Yeah, last Friday, teacher. But this 25, okay. Let me see. Friday 16. Just a second. Friday 16. Okay, teacher Alcira. Let's review number 25, okay? Don't worry. In order to practice this. Those case studies are missing, and now let's review. And then let's continue with the situation from today, right? Okay. Thank you, teacher Alcira. Thank you so much. Okay, now let's continue with number 25 because it's important to review the situations. '24. Eduardo's students have been talking about their dream home in the past few sessions. Now he wants them to use the following expressions in a free speaking activity. Which of the following language functions are these expressions most suitable for? Option A. Being imprecise of verb. B. Explaining and justifying. C. Expressing preferences. As you notice here, this situation number 24, because here, let's try to finish those situations, right? And then let's continue with more situations from today. A, B, or C. Number 24. This situation based on language function. A, B, or C. "24" is that we don't have the expressions above. Teacher? Mm. Okay, teacher. What's up here? Just a second. Okay, teacher Alcira, just a second, teacher Alcira, please. I am reviewing, but let's try to continue this training with the situation that I have presented today, and then let's continue with the 3 missing, please, teacher Alcira, okay? Thank you. Because here I have okay. Thank you, thank you. Well, teachers. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened here. Share. I can't share. Why not? I don't know what happened today. I can't share. I can't share. I don't know why. I can't share. Okay. At least the reward this machine. Well. Let's continue with it because everyone has this document, teachers, please. Okay, number 1. Stefano wants his students to develop their speaking skill through group discussions. He has planned the following sequence. First, the teacher plays an audio of a conversation between 2 friends, giving each other recommendation on how to deal with stress. He asks the students to write down the language used to give recommendation. Next, the teacher elicits the language the students identify and writes it on the board. He tells the students they will use that language in a further step. Then he presents the following situation. Mario, a colleague student, attends daily classes for 8 hours from Monday to Friday. He usually starts classes at 7:30 a.m. and finishes at 6:30 p.m. He has a 15-minute break from 11 a.m. to 11:15 a.m. to have a little snack. At 1 p.m., he has lunch and returns to his classroom at 1:30 p.m. After that, the teacher writes the following questions on the board. What do you think about Marie's schedule? What consequences can this schedule bring to Marie's health? And what recommendations can you give Mario to help him deal with this situation? The teacher forms group and asks them to discuss the questions. After some minutes, he invites some volunteers to share their answers with the rest of the class. Next, he asks each group to make a list of recommendations to help Mario deal with his schedule. He encourages the students to use the language they identify at the beginning of the activity. Then, the members of the group share the recommendation with the rest of the class. Finally, the teacher asks the students to analyze the language they use during the activity. Which of the following methods have mainly been applied in Stefano's teaching sequence? A, TBL, C, CBL, or C, PBL? Task-based learning, option A, B, content-based learning, or C, problem-based learning? Task, content, or problem-based learning? Read carefully the sequence, and this sequence corresponds to approaches, right? Approaches. On Friday, we'll review those approaches. Remember, we reviewed information about those approaches. Thank you so much. Alcira. Okay, teacher Alcira, calm down, teacher. Don't worry. Let's review. If I'm going to include, okay. If we haven't finished today, on Friday, right? I'm going to include those situations, teacher Alcira, don't worry. I have taken notes, 24 to 28. Okay. Now, let me see. Teacher Alcira A, Pedro A, teacher Veronica A. And the rest of the teachers? Imagine, teacher, you are taking your Minedo exam. Imagine. It's important to choose one option, A, B, or C. When Minedo presents a situation based on any approach, Minedo present in a sequence. And here you have the sequence, right? You have the sequence and you realize the sequence corresponds to approaches. Remember, task-based learning or task-based instruction based on meaningful task. Okay, meaningful task. It means that task is useful, relevant, and in real situation. How many stages are there in task-based learning? Who remembers? How many stages? How many? How many stages are there in task-based learning? Come on. 3. Thank you, teacher Veronica. One of them. The first one. The first one is pre-task. The second, thank you, teacher Veronica. The second, task cycle. And the third, language focus. Pre-task, task cycle, and language focus. In pre-task, the teacher presents, introduce, explore the topic, and give clear instructions. In task cycle, there are 3 aspects. Who remembers? 3 aspects or elements. Who remember? In task cycle, task, planning, and report. Task, planning, and report. We review, during this training, we review information about those approaches. In task cycle, there are 3 elements or aspects. Task, planning, and report. The students do the task in pairs or in small groups. While learners are doing the task, the teacher monitors and provides help if necessary. The teacher provides support if learners need support. When they have finished, they are going to plan how they are going to report the task. Task, planning, and report. The student report the task in front of the class orally or in written way. In language focus, there are 2 aspects, analysis and practice. Analysis and practice. The students analyze the kind of language they use and practice the target language, practice English. The students analyze the kind of language they use and practice the target language. My dear teachers, when you find in the sequence, the teacher monitors and provides help if necessary, task-based learning. That the teacher monitors and gives support if learners need support, task-based learning. If you find report, plan, the students analyze the kind of language they use. The students analyze the kind of language they use. Task-based learning, because there are 2 aspects, analysis and practice. The students practice the target language. The students practice English. Task-based learning. Content-based learning. Content-based learning. This approach based on any topic or any subject, but the topic or the subject based on a student's interest. A student's interest. The students, for example, form groups. The teacher forms groups. It depends on the test. For example, if you present an article and the article has 4 paragraphs, you are going to divide the class into 4 groups, and you're going to give you 1 paragraph per group because there are 4 paragraphs. Then the students form new groups in order to exchange information from the previous group. Content-based learning, the most important here in this approach depends on the topic or the subject, but the topic or the subject based on a student's interest. Because when you choose the topic or the subject, focus on the student's interest, motivation from our learners increase. Problem-based learning, there are a lot of problems. And it's important to prioritize a problem. And when you find in the sequence, okay, learners, teachers, principal prioritize the problem because there are a lot of problems, and a problem has a lot of situations, a lot of solutions. And when you find in the sequence, the students promote, or how do the students promote, contribute, create awareness, or they are part of the solutions in some cases, the situation based on problem-based learning. Remember, it's important to read carefully the situation and the sequence because in some cases it's a problem, but the sequence corresponds to another approach. But here in problem-based learning, when you find the students promote, contribute, create awareness, or they are part of the solutions, the sequence corresponds to problem-based learning. A problem has a lot of solutions. And in problem-based learning, learners can use technology resources too. Okay, in problem and project, learners can use technology resources. Now, teachers, according to the information, according to this sequence, the sequence corresponds to task-based learning, content-based learning, or problem-based learning. I am repeating the explanation because during this training, when we review situation, I emphasize on the information. Now, most of you share option A. Thank you, teacher Eliana, Veronica A, Pedro, and Alcira A. And the rest of the teacher Connie A. The correct option, teachers, is option A. Option A. And what happened here? Where is my... What happened today with my machine, my laptop? I don't know what happened. I don't have here the colors. Oops. I don't know what happened with my laptop today. I don't know. Well, anyway. Okay, teachers, number 1, task-based learning. Task-based learning. Now, number 2. During the discussion, most of the students came to the conclusion that Mario has a really heavy schedule. As a follow-up activity, Stefano wants students to develop their writing skill through a persuasive piece of writing. Which of the following writing tasks is appropriate to achieve Stefano's purpose? A. The student write a list of suggestions as if they were Mario's psychologist. They suggest Mario's different ways to overcome stress. They recommend relaxation techniques and simple exercises for him to practice every day. B, the student write a letter to the college director as if they were Mario's classmates. They ask the director to adjust the schedule so that they can have more breaks a day. They give reason to support their request. C. The student write a diary entry as if they were Mario. They choose a school day and describe all the activities he does during that day. They also mention how stressed and tired Mario feels at the end of that day. A, B, or C? A, B, or C? Number 2. Teacher Alcira, Verónica, Walter, B. B. I don't know, teachers, what happened with my, I want to highlight, but here is impossible. I don't know why. I want to need colors, but I don't know why I can't. Well. Anyway, let's continue. I want to highlight, but I don't know this. I can't hear. Well, as you notice, this situation, what is the purpose in this situation number 2? During the discussion, most of the students came to the conclusion that Mario has a really heavy schedule. As a follow-up activity, Stefano wants his students to develop, this is the purpose, to develop their writing skill through a persuasive piece of writing. Persuasive piece of writing. This is the purpose. Which of the following writing task is appropriate? Is appropriate to achieve Stephanos' purpose. Appropriate. Let's see. Most of you share option B. Teacher Eliana and Teacher Pedro, B. Okay? Persuasive piece of writing, persuasive. In option A, the student write a list of suggestions. Here you have a list of suggestions as if they were Mario psychologists. They suggest Mario different ways to overcome stress. They recommend relaxation techniques and simple exercises for him to practice every day. But the purpose is to develop writing. And here you have only a list of suggestions, only a list. Remember, writing skill through a persuasive. And here, the student recommends relaxation techniques. Okay. Well, recommend. In option B, the students write a letter. Write a letter to the college director. Okay. The purpose is to develop writing skills through a persuasive. Here, learner write a letter to the college director if they were Mario's classmates. The students ask the director to adjust the schedule so that they can have more breaks a day. They give reasons to support their request because the purpose is to develop writing skill through a persuasive. Do you notice the difference between A and B? Which writing task is appropriate to achieve Stephanos' purpose? And what is the purpose? To develop writing skill through a persuasive. Let's analyze option C. Most of you share option B, but it's important to analyze option C. In option or alternative letter C, the student write a diary entry as if they were Mario. They choose a school day and describe all the activities he does during that day. They also mention how stressed and tired Mario feels at the end of that day. If learners write a diary, well, it's important to improve or to develop writing skill, but here you have something else important, persuasive piece of writing, persuasive. And in option C, describe activities, and they also mention how stressed and tired Mario feels at the end of that day. So it's not persuasive. So the correct option is option or alternative letter B, letter B. Good job, teachers, letter B. It's important to take into account what is the purpose. Develop student writing skills through a persuasive, convince. Is it clear situation number 2? Well, I tried to find in order to highlight, but here I don't know what happened. Just a second, dear. Okay. Well, let's continue. I don't know what happened with the highlights. Number 3. Susanna's students have been practicing how to ask and answer information questions. However, some students still have problems formulating this kind of questions. Aware of that, Susanna wants to help her students improve their accuracy. She had thought of the 3 following activities. Activity number 1. The teacher writes 5 incorrect information questions on the board. She pairs up the students and asks them to identify the mistakes and correct them. Then the students explain to the rest of the class the reasons for the correction they made. Activity number 2. The teacher brings copies of a song that contains information questions and gives each student a copy of it. She asks them to circle the information questions in the song. Finally, the teacher plays the song and invites the students to sing it along. Activity number 3. The teacher pairs up the students and gives each pair a set of scrambled information questions. The students unscramble the questions and share the correct order of the questions with the whole class. A, B, or C, number 3. Number 3. Number 3, teacher Pedro, Verónica, Alcira, B. Which of the activities Susana has thought of is least appropriate for her purpose? Least appropriate. Activity number 1, activity number 2, or activity number 3? Least appropriate. Least appropriate. I'm going to stop sharing because I can't move my... I don't know what happened. Just a second, teachers, okay? Because here I have problem with the keyword. Just a second. Don't move. Just a second. I'm going to share again because I can't highlight. I can't to up and down. I don't know what happened. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to share again. Just a second. Don't move. Well, I have the same problem. The same problem. I don't know what happened. Well, I can't highlight. I don't know why. Well, let's continue. Well, number three, teacher Eliana B. Well, least appropriate. You know, here, as you notice, well, I have the pencil. Susanna's students have been practicing how to ask and answer information. Ask and answer information questions. However, some students still have problems formulating this kind of questions. Aware of that, Susanna wants to help, this is the purpose, to help her students improve their accuracy. This is important to take into account this term, accuracy. What does accuracy mean? Or when you find this term, it refers to accuracy. Accuracy refers to The correct use of grammar. Thank you, teacher Alcira. The correct use of grammar. Right, thank you. The correct use of grammar. Accuracy. Okay. As you notice here, she had thought of the three following activities. You have activity number 1, 2, and 3. If you focus on the correct use of grammar, basically, accuracy, you have here in activity number 1, the teacher raised 5 incorrect information questions. Incorrect information questions on the board. She pairs up the student and asks them to identify. Learners identify the mistakes and correct them. Then the students explain to the rest of the class the reasons for the corrections they made. Well, remember, accuracy based on the correct use of grammar. And the purpose is to help students improve their accuracy. In activity number 2, the teacher brings copies of a song that contains information questions and give each student a copy of it. She asks them to circle the information questions in the song. Finally, the teacher plays the song and invites the students to sing it aloud. Right here, the teacher brings copies of a song. In activity number 3, the teacher pairs up the students and gives each pair a set of scrambled information question. The students unscramble the questions and share the correct order of the question with the whole class. Okay, scramble the questions and share the correct order of the question with the whole class. But the question is, which of the activities Susana has thought of is least appropriate? Activity number 1, activity number 2, or activity number 3. And most of you share option B, I think. Option B. Yes, option B. Why option B? Okay. Least appropriate. Why, teacher? Support your answer. Why? Because, remember, accuracy refers to the correct use of grammar. Okay. Teacher Alcira, vocabulary. And as you notice here, in option B only, the students circle the information questions in the song. Only circle. But the purpose is to help the students improve their accuracy. And you have here in activity number 1, learners identify mistakes and correct them, the correct use. And in option C, or activity number 3, the teacher pairs up the students and give each pair a set of scrambled information questions. The students unscramble the questions and share the correct order of the question with the whole class. So, least appropriate, option B. That's right. Option B. Thank you, teacher Alcira, teacher Verónica, Eliana, Pedro, and no more answers. Well, number 3B. Number 4. During the past few sessions, Wilmer's students have been practicing the function greeting and introducing people. Now he wants them to use that function through a speaking communicative activity. Given this goal, which of the following activities is it more appropriate to carry out? A. The teacher elicits some expressions used to greet and introduce people and writes them on the board. Then he forms groups of 3 and sets a contest of each group. Friends at a party, students in a new class, etc. He tells the students to perform a conversation including some of the expressions written on the board. B. The teacher gives each student a copy of a conversation of 2 students greeting and introducing themselves. He pairs up the students and asks them to practice the conversation for some minutes. Then he invites some volunteers to present the conversation in front of the class. C. The teacher gives the students a handout that contains expressions to greet and introduce people. Then he asks the students to stand up and mingle in order to greet as classmates using the expressions in the handout. Next, they continue to greet different classmates for about 5 minutes. A, B, or C? A, B, or C, number 4. Number 4. Number 4. Teacher, Cari, Pedro, Verónica, Eliana, A. Okay. As you notice, this situation focus on the language function, greeting, and introducing people. When we talk about language functions based on functional approach and functional approach based on the language, and there are different types of language functions, greeting and introducing people, apologizing, complimenting, etc. And each one has a specific expressions, questions, structures, or in some situations, may neither present the chorus of a song or a fragment of a verb, etc. So, Wilmer's students have been practicing the function greeting and introducing people. During your exam and here in this training, it's important to underline or circle what is the topic, the purpose, and the question. Well, now he wants them to use that function to use greeting and introducing people function through a speaking communicative activity. Speaking is a productive skill. Communicative means interaction. Speaking is an interactive skill. Interactive. And communicative means interaction. This term communicative, remember, refers to productive skills. When you find the term communicative, it's important to relate to productive skills. And there are two productive skills, speaking and writing. For example, in speaking an interview, a role play, one student asks a question and the other answers the question. Then they swap roles. Swap means exchange roles. Interaction in speaking, an interview, a role play, right? A dialogue. In writing, writing communicative activity. Writing, when a student write and send an email or a letter or a message and the other one answer the mail or the letter or the message. Interaction. Communicative means interaction. English subject focus on communicative approach. There are different types of approaches. Task-based learning, content-based learning, collaborative, cooperative, inductive, deductive. There are different types. And communicative approach, okay, teachers, focus on English subject, communicative. Given this goal, which of the following activities is it more appropriate? More, this is the question, more. In option A, the teacher elicits. We need to use a lot this term, elicits. The teacher elicits, the teacher asks. The teacher asks some expressions. Expressions. Teacher, remember, when you find language functions based on the functional approach. And there are different types of language functions. And each one has a specific expressions. And you're going to relate expressions, right? Structures, questions. Used to greet and introduce people and write them on the board. Then he forms groups of 3 and set a contest. Set a contest or set a scene. Remember? Set a contest for each group. For example, the contest, friends at the party, students in a new class, etc. He tells the students to perform a conversation. Conversation. Here you have a speaking, communicative, activity, conversation, interaction. Include some of the expressions written on the board. In option B, the teacher gives each student the copy of a conversation. The teacher gives the copy of a conversation of 2 students greeting and introducing themselves. He pairs up the student and asks them to practice. Learners are going to practice the conversation for some minutes. Then he invites some volunteers to present the conversation. Volunteers to present the conversation in front of the class. Do you consider this activity is more appropriate in order to use greeting and introducing people function? through a speaking communicative activity. Or option C, the teacher gives the student a handout that contains expressions, to greet and introduce people. Then he asks the student to stand up and mingle. Mingle is a short activity and the student will walk around the classroom. Okay, walk around the classroom in order to greet a classmate using the expressions in the handout. Next, they continue to greet different classmates for about 5. Here. Wait. Now, for about 5 minutes. Most of you share option A. And as you notice, and teacher Eliana A, Verónica C, teacher Pedro A, Cari A. A or C, because only a teacher share option C. A or C, teacher Verónica. Speaking communicative activity. Speaking communicative activity. Communicative means interaction. In option C, teacher, the teacher gives the students a handout. The teacher gives a handout that contains expressions, okay? Contains expressions to greet and introduce people. Then he asks the students to stand up. Learners, stand up and mingle. What does mingle mean? It's a short activity, walk around the classroom in order to greet a classmate. To greet a classmate using the expressions in the handout. Next, they continue to greet different classmates for about 5 minutes. Do you consider with this activity here in option C, with this activity, is appropriate to use the language function greeting and introducing people through a speaking communicative activity? Communicative means interaction. What do you think, teacher Veronica? In option C, here, do you notice learners interact? Because then he asks the students to stand up and mingle. Mingle is a short activity. Learner walk around the classroom, okay, in order to greet a classmate. Greet a classmate using the expressions. That's it in the handout. No interaction here, teacher. No interaction. Okay, no interaction in option C, in activity number or letter C. So the correct alternative for number 4 is option A. Option A. Is it clear, teacher Veronica? For number 4. Okay, don't worry if you made mistake here in this training. Don't worry, in this training. You are here in order to prepare, to rephrase, review. Take it easy. But here, teacher, here, in this training. Now, let's continue with number 4. I don't know what. Oops, oops, oops. I don't know what happened with this laptop today. Well, number 4A. Number 5. Daniela's students have been practicing narrating events in the past. Now she wants her students to improve their writing skill through a free activity. Taking the teacher's purpose into account, which of the following activities is it appropriate to carry out? A. The teacher provides the student with a short comic story. The comic story shows only characters in different scenes without any text. The teacher asks the students to write a short description for each scene using past tense structures. B. The teacher gives the students the copy of a song with some blanks to be filled in with verbs. The song mentions some events that took place in the past. The teacher asks the students to fill in the blanks using verbs in the past. C. The teacher asks the students to write a short report about an event that has had a strong impact in their lives. The teacher asks the students to describe that event using the language of their choice. A, B, or C. Number 5. Number 5. Number 5. Teacher Pedro, Verónica, Cari, Eliana, Alcira, C. Okay, Miss Sense. Okay, Teacher Verónica. Number 5, C. Most of you share option C. Now, what is the purpose in this situation? Daniel's students have been practicing narrating events in the past. Now she wants her students to improve. This is the purpose, to improve their writing. Writing is a productive skill through a free activity. It is very important to take into account. Free activity. Taking the teacher's purpose into account, which of the following activities is it appropriate to carry out? In option A, the teacher provides the students with a short comic story. The teacher provides the students with a short comic story. But here, the purpose is to improve the student writing skill through a free activity. But what happened? The teacher provides with a short comic story. It's not free. The comic story shows only characters in different scenes, right? Here, without any test. The teacher asks the students to write a short description for each scene using past tense structures. But take into consideration, this is free activity. And here, the teacher provides a short comic story. For this reason, this activity is not appropriate. And the question is, which activity is it appropriate to carry out? Let's see number 5, option B. In option B, the teacher gives the students the copy of a song. The teacher gives the students the copy of a song. It's not free because the teacher gives the copy of a song with some blanks to be filled with verbs. The song mentions some events that took place in the past. The teacher asks the students to fill in the blanks using verbs in the past. Now, in option C, the teacher asks the students to write a short report about an event that has a strong impact on their life. The teacher asks the students to describe that event using the language of their choice because it's a free activity, right? Free activity. So the correct alternative for number 5 is alternative or option C. Why? Because the teacher asked the students to write a short report. The purpose is to write in a free activity, short report about an event that has had a strong impact in their life. Free activity. The teacher asked the students to describe that event using the language of their choice. The correct option is option C. Well done, teachers. All of you share option C. Number 6. Is it clear, teachers? If you have any question, write your question and I'm going to answer. Number 6. Felipe's students are describing family relationships. The teacher asked the following question. What's your father's name? What's your father's name? Marcia, one of the students gives the following answer. Your father's name is Marcos. Noticing Marcia's mistake, Felipe wants to correct her on the spot so that she can become aware of her mistakes and correct it herself. Which of the following actions is more appropriate to achieve the teacher's purpose? A. The teacher writes on the board a list of pronouns and their possessive adjective and then asks Marcia, what is the possessive adjective for the pronoun I? B. The teacher looks a little surprised, points at his own chest, and says in a mild tone, my father's name, stressing the adjective my. C. The teacher gently says, are you sure your answer is okay? Then he asks another student what his father's name is. A, B, or C. Number 6. Number 6, teachers. Pedro, B. Eliana Verónica, B. Alcira, B. Felipe students are describing family relationship. The teacher asked the following question. What is your father's name? Marcia, one of the students, gives the following answer. Your father's name is Marcos. Noticing Marcia's mistake, Felipe wants to correct her on the spot. On the spot. What does it mean on the spot? On the spot, it refers to immediately, at the moment, so that she can become aware of her mistake and correct it herself. Which of the following action is more appropriate to achieve the teacher's purpose? Felipe wants to correct her on the spot, to correct immediately, at the moment. Now, in option A, the teacher writes on the board a list of pronouns and their possessive adjective and then asks Marcia, what is the possessive adjective for the pronoun I? Do you consider this action is more appropriate to achieve the teacher's purpose? Or in option B, the teacher looks a little surprised, right? The teacher looks a little surprised, points at his own chest, and says in a mild tone, my father's name, stressing the adjective my father's name. That in option C, the teacher gently says, are you sure your answer is okay? Then he asks another student what his father's name is. Most of you teachers share option B. Option B. Because here, the teacher corrects her on the spot. Immediately, the teacher looks a little surprised, points at his own chest and says, in a mild tone, my father's name. So this option, in case study number 6, is the correct option. Number 6, B. It's important to take into account, teachers, what is the topic, the purpose, and the question. Analyze alternative by alternative. Why not A? Because in A, the teacher writes a list of pronouns and their possessive adjective. And then ask Marcia, what is the possessive adjective for the pronoun I? But Marcia, here, Marcia said, your father's name. If the teacher presents a list of pronouns, it's not appropriate because the purpose is to correct Marcia on the spot. Why not C? Because in option C, the teacher gently says, are you sure your answer is okay? Imagine. Are you sure? If your answer is okay, then he asks another student what his father's name is. This action is not appropriate in order to correct Marcia on the spot. Number 6, option B. Good job, teachers. Number 6, B. Number 7. Camille students are going to listen to a short audio about candidates applying for different jobs. Before the students listen to the audio, the teacher does the following activities. First, the teacher shows the students flashcards of jobs and elicits the jobs titles. Next, the teacher pairs up the students and asks them to discuss what qualities are needed for those jobs. Then the teacher calls for volunteers to share their answer with the class. Finally, the teacher tells the students they will listen to an audio related to jobs. Based on the activities presented, which stage of the lesson is Camilo developing? A, leading, B, presentation, or C, control practice? Leading, presentation, or control practice? 7. Number 7. Number 7, teacher Eliana, A. And the rest of the teachers, leading. For teacher Eliana, leading. And the rest of the teachers, number 7. Number 7. Camila students are going to listen to a short audio. Short audio, it means this situation based on listening about candidates applying for different jobs. Before the students listen to the audio, the teacher does the following activities. First, the teacher shows the students flashcards. Show the students flashcards of jobs and elicit and ask the job titles. Next, the teacher pairs up the students and asks them to discuss what qualities are needed for those jobs. Then the teacher calls for volunteers to share their answer with the class. Finally, the teacher tells the students they will listen to an audio related to jobs. Based on the activities presented, which stage of the lesson is Camilo developing? A, leading, B, presentation, or C, control practice? Leading, presentation, or control practice? Here I have another answer. Teacher Eliana, A, and teacher Alcira, A. For both teacher Alcira and Eliana, option A. The question is, based on the activities presented, which stage of the lesson is Camilo developing? Leading, right? Leading. Why leading? Because as you notice here, leading is an introduction. Introduction, right? About the topic here. First, the teacher showed the students flashcards of jobs, right? This sequence, okay, according to this sequence, Camilo is developing leading. Then the teacher pairs up the students discuss what qualities are needed for those jobs. Then the teacher calls for volunteers to share their answers. Finally, the teacher tells the students they will listen to an audio related to jobs, because here is before the students listen to an audio. So those activities correspond to leading, because leading is an introduction, okay? And this situation based on listening. So the teacher presents flashcards in order to introduce the topic, to introduce the audio, right, about jobs. So the correct alternative for number 7 is A, leading. Leading is an introduction. Introduction. And presentation is when the teacher here, finally the teacher tells the student they will listen to an audio related to jobs. After this sequence correspond to presentation. And then control practice. Remember control practice? Control practice, the teacher presents activities first, for example, filling the gaps with the missing words from the audio. This is control practice. And in control practice, filling the gaps, drillings are common in control practice activities. So according to this, correspond to leading stage. Leading stage is an introduction. Now, number 8. Angel wants to help his students reinforce their reading skill through jigsaw reading. He has designed the following session. First, the teacher divides the class into groups of 4. Next, the teacher gives all the groups the same text split into 4 paragraphs. He makes sure that in each group, each student gets one different paragraph. The students read the paragraph they got and write down important information in their notebooks. Then the teacher collects the paragraph he gave the groups at the beginning of the activity. Given Angel's purpose of using jigsaw reading, which of the following activities is it appropriate to carry out next? A. The students take turns to share with the other members of the same group some important information they found in the paragraph they read. They use the notes they took in their notebooks. Then one member of the group summarizes the information shared by the 4 members. B. The students form new groups of 4 with classmates that have read the same paragraph. Using their notes, the students exchange the information found in the paragraph and add new and relevant information if necessary. The students return to their home groups and each member reports the information they wrote. Then some groups share what they have learned from the article. C. The students share the information they wrote in their notebooks. The other members listen and ask questions in case they have some doubts. The groups continue with the process until all the members have shared the information in their notebooks. Then, together, they rewrite the article and hand it in to the teacher. Number 8. Teacher Alcira, what's the meaning of jigsaw reading? Remember here on Friday, we review information about jigsaw reading. Remember? When we talk about teachers, jigsaw reading is a cooperative learning and reading comprehension strategy. Jigsaw reading. Sorry. Right? So it means where learners have a long task, okay, And this test is broken into smaller. Students work in small groups to become experts, okay, between quotation, experts on one paragraph or section, okay? Then learner regroup to teach what they learn to peers, to their partners. In order, here it's important to take into account that they are going to put together the full test like a jigsaw puzzle because there are different tests in different teams, right? So this is jigsaw reading, jigsaw reading. Now, according to this situation, read carefully and decide given Angel's purpose of using jigsaw reading, which of the following activities is it appropriate? Appropriate. Now, A, B, or C? Number 8. Number 8, teacher Gary and teacher Alcira, B. B, B, B. And the rest of the teachers? Imagine you are taking your minute exam. It's necessary to choose your answer. Angel wants to help his students reinforce their reading skill through jigsaw reading. Jigsaw reading. Remember, jigsaw reading. And remember, jigsaw reading is a cooperative learning and reading comprehension. Reading comprehension strategy. For example, you present a long test and this test is broken into smaller or into paragraph, for example. It depends, a test or an article, right? Then students work in small groups to become experts, between quotations, experts, okay, on one paragraph or section. Then they are going to regroup. You know group? Regroup. To teach what they learn, what they read to peers, partners. Jigsaw reading, okay, jigsaw reading in order to put together the full test. Okay, the full test, because you know the long test is broken into smaller. And then jigsaw reading, okay, learners regroup to teach what they learn to peers in order to put together the full test. This is jigsaw reading, So, first, the teacher divides the class into groups of 4. Here you have 4. Next, the teacher gives all the groups the same test split into 4 paragraphs. Because there are 4 groups, 4 paragraphs. He makes sure that in each group, each student gets one different paragraph. Because there are 4 paragraphs, 4 groups. Each group has different paragraphs. The student read the paragraph they got and write down important information in their notebook. Then the teacher collects the paragraph he gave the groups at the beginning of the activity. Given Angel's purpose of using jigsaw reading, which of the following activities is it appropriate to carry out? Appropriate. A, the students take turns to share with the other members of the same group some important information they found in the paragraph they read. They use the notes they took in their notebooks. Then one member of the group summarizes the information shared by the 4 members. Summarizing, do you consider this activity is appropriate to carry out? Or option B, the students form new groups of 4 with classmates that have read the same paragraph. Using their notes, the students exchange the information found in the paragraph and add new and relevant information if necessary. The students return to their home groups and each member reports the information they wrote. Then some groups share what they have learned from the article. Do you consider this activity is appropriate to carry out? Or in option C, the students share the information, they wrote in their notebooks. The other members listen and ask questions in case they have some doubts. The groups continue with this process until all the members have shared the information in their notebooks. Then together they rewrite the article and hand it in to the teacher. Which one? A, B, or C? Teachers, now teacher Alcira B and teacher Cari B. And the rest of the teachers? Diana, Eliana, Marta, May, Pedro. Okay, teachers. The correct option is option B. B for number 8. B. Option B. Option B. No, because using their note, students exchange the information found in the paragraph and add new and relevant information. The student return to their home groups and each member report the information they wrote. Then some groups share what they have learned from the article, right? So this is the correct alternative for number 8. 8B, Jigsaw reading, Jigsaw reading, Jigsaw reading, number 8B. Okay, teacher Eliana. Yeah, okay, teacher Eliana. Number 8. Yes, teacher Eliana. Cari, Eliana. Okay, teacher. Yes, Cari and Eliana. Thank you. Alcira, okay. Don't worry, teacher Eliana. You always participate. I confused the name. Don't worry. I apologize, teacher Eliana. Okay, number 9. Greta's fifth grade students have been discussing about values they consider important. In that context, she wants her students to develop their writing skills. Which of the following activities is least appropriate to achieve the teacher's purpose? A. In groups, the students make a word cloud about values. The teacher asks the students to draw a claw on the flip chart and tells them to fill in the claw with words related to the topic. She highlights that the words they consider most important should be written with bigger letters in order to stand out from the other words. B. In groups, the students design a survey to find out which values are important among their schoolmates. They should write questions to identify the values the survey students have. Then, as homework, a student runs the survey, analyzes the answers, and writes some conclusions. C. In groups, the students write the script of a TV spot that points out similarities and differences between their own values and the values their parents had when they were teenagers. The teacher asks the students to include catchy ideas for the audience to get interested in the spot. A, B, or C, number 9. Number 9. Number 9, teachers Alcira and teacher Eliana. A. Alcira and Eliana A. Greta's fifth grade students have been discussing about values. This is the topic. They consider important. In that context, what context? Values. She wants her students to develop, this is the purpose, to develop their writing skill. Develop their writing skill. Which of the following activities is least appropriate? Least appropriate. Teachers, during your exam or here in this training, it's important to underline or circle. Don't waste your time because the time flies. Is least appropriate to achieve the teacher's purpose? In alternative letter A, in groups, the students make a word cloud about values. The teacher asks the students to draw. The students draw a cloud on a flip chart and tells them to fill in the cloud with words, only words related to the topic. She highlights that the words they consider most important should be written with bigger letters, bigger, in order to stand out from the other words. But what is the purpose? The purpose is to develop writing skill. Which of the following activities is least appropriate? Here, in option A, only learners draw a cloud. Then they're going to fill in the cloud. There, the teacher, highlights the words they consider most important should be written with bigger letters in order to stand out from the other words. In option B, in groups, the students design a survey to find out which values are important among their schoolmates. They should write questions to identify the values that survey students have. Then, as homework, each student runs the survey, analyzes the answers, and writes some conclusions. So this activity is appropriate in order to develop writing skill. Why appropriate? Because they are going to design a survey. But the question is, which activity is least appropriate? In option C, in groups, the students write the script of active spots that points out similarities and differences between their own values and the values their parents had when they were teenagers. The teacher asked the students to include catching ideas for the audience to get interested in the spot. As you notice here, this activity is appropriate. But the question is, which activity is least appropriate? What is the purpose? To develop their writing skill. So the correct alternative or option is alternative letter A for number 9. Letter A. Good job, teachers. Eliana and Alcira. Well done. Cari, A. Teacher Cari, Eliana, Alcira, Pedro. A. Excellent, teachers. That's good. Number 9. A. Number 10. Aurelio wants to help his students improve their speaking skill through a functional activity. Functional. When you find this term functional, it relates to functional. Who remembers? Functional, because I emphasize on this term, refers to functional Does the word sound familiar or not? Functional? Through a functional activity. When you found functional, okay, relate to language functional or functional approach. Functional approach based on the language. Based on the language. And functional approach, there are different types of language functionals. Apologizing, complimenting, giving advice, etc. Taking his purpose into account, which of the following activities is it appropriate to carry out? A, the teacher pairs up the students and assigns each of them a topic. He asked the students to take turns to talk about the topic they were assigned for at least 1 minute. While one student talks, the other pays attention and asks further questions. Then they switch roles. What does switch mean? They swap roles. If you don't remember switch, swap, they exchange roles. B, the teacher pairs up the student and asks them to perform a dialogue between two friends. Friend A has a problem and asks for advice, and friend B gives suggestions to help his friend solve his problem. Then the teacher asks the students to exchange roles for further practice. C, the teacher pairs up the students and gives each of them a flashcard. He asks the students to find similarities and differences between the two flashcards. The students compare the flashcards and discuss for some minutes. Then the teacher invites some students to share their findings. A, B, or C. Number 10. Number 10, A, B, or C. Which of the following activities is it appropriate? What is the purpose? The purpose is to improve speaking. Speaking skill. Speaking is an interactive skill. Interactive. Speaking is a productive, functional activity based on the language or taking into account language functions. And language functions based on expressions, questions, structures. So A, B, or C? A, B, or C? In option A, the teacher pairs up the students and assigns each of them a topic. He asked the students to take turns to talk about the topic they were assigned for at least 1 minute. While one student talks, the other pays attention and asks further questions. Then they switch roles. Remember, what is the purpose? To improve speaking. Speaking is an interactive. But here the students take turns to talk about the topic. And they were assigned for at least 1 minute. While one student talks, the other pays attention and asks further questions. Then they switch roles. They exchange roles. Do you consider this activity is appropriate to carry out? Or option B, the teacher pairs up the students and asks them to perform a dialogue. Dialogue between two friends. Speaking is an interactive. Two friends. Friend A has a problem and asks for advice. Advice sounds familiar. Functional. Language function, giving advice. Functional approach based on the language. And friend B gives suggestions. Giving advice and suggestion is a language function. To help his friend solve his problem. Then the teacher asked the students to exchange roles for further practice. This activity is appropriate in order the students improve a speaking skill through a functional activity, teacher. Functional activity. In option C, the teacher pairs up the students and gives each of them a flashcard. Imagine, flashcard. He asked the students to find similarities and differences between the two flashcards. The students compare the flashcards and discuss for some minutes. Then the teacher invites some students to share their findings. Which one? Number 9 or number 10? B, teacher Alcira, Pedro, Eliana, and teacher Cari. B, very good teachers. Alcira, Pedro, Eliana, teacher Cari. Good participation. Oops, teacher, the time flies. The time flies. It's 9:45. Well, the last one, because it's necessary to finish this. Number 11. Renzo students are going to work in pairs in order to talk about challenging situations they have gone through. After Renzo has assigned each student a role and giving instructions for the activity, he writes the following expressions on the board. What a shame! That's too bad. What a letdown. Considering the expressions above, which of the following language functions is Renzo going to promote with his activity? A, expressing disappointment. B, expressing uncertainty. C, expressing necessity. A, B, or C? The last one, because our class finished at 9:30. But anyway, don't worry. Extra time. Number 11. Number 11. Teachers. Alcira, Cari, A. Expressing disappointment. Expressing disappointment, right? Expressing disappointment is the feeling of sadness, dissatisfaction, frustration. What a shame. That's too bad. What a letdown. Remember, when Minedo present any situation based on language functions, Minedo present expressions or questions structures. But if you don't know the meaning of all the expressions, try to identify keywords. Bad, for example. That's too bad. What a letdown. You know, down, up, down, right? So, and it's important to relate the expressions. Expressing disappointment. Expressing disappointment. Remember, disappointment is the feeling of sadness, frustration, dissatisfaction. And I recommend you use those expressions during your classes, right? When you use expressions, questions, structures, for you it's easier to remember during your Minedo exam. So the correct option is option A, expressing disappointment. Expressing disappointment. Well, teachers, today we reviewed some situations in order to practice. And here you have the answer key. You have here the answer key at the end of this situation. Now, teachers, I have, let me see, don't move. Okay, teacher Alcira, the time flies. I'm taking notes to review those questions, okay, or those situations on Friday, teacher Alcira. I'm taking notes. Don't worry, teacher, okay, because the time flies. Well, teachers, now, it's important, teachers, that I have a message from, yes, on Friday, teacher Alcira, okay, Friday. I'm going to include on Friday. I'm going to review those situations, okay, teacher Alcira? Okay, teachers. I have a message from Piaget Educa. Bien. El día 1 de julio, teachers, el día 1 de julio empieza un nuevo grupo, así que les comunico para que sigamos compartiendo estas clases con un nuevo ciclo que viene el día 1 de julio para aquellos que todavía no están inscritos o desean inscribirse. Vamos a continuar con los desarrollo de las situaciones o casos para que ustedes puedan seguir preparándose y así tener un buen éxito para su examen programado por el Ministerio de Educación. Bien, profesores, les deseo muy buenas noches y bueno, el día de hoy pues la máquina no sé qué pasó, no pude el cursor ni sombrear. Bueno, voy a tener que verificar qué está pasando con la máquina para que el día viernes podamos subrayar con los diferentes colores que sabemos subrayar siempre nuestro propósito, nuestro tema y la pregunta en sí y las palabras claves. Bien, entonces el día viernes continuamos con más ejercicios, más situaciones y también con dos casos creo que hubo pendientes que no se terminó, ¿no? Porque siempre tenemos, por ejemplo, hoy día se ha pasado la hora, solamente nuestra clase empieza de 7:30 a 9:30, pero bueno, ya el día de hoy ya van a ser las 10, pero no hay problema. Con mucho cariño, un tiempo extra. Entonces, ya tomé notas, profesora Alcira, para revisar los últimos dos casos que faltan. Lo voy a incluir en el material del día viernes, ¿ya? Ya tomé nota aquí para poder incluirlos para el día viernes. No se preocupen del 16, ¿verdad? ¿Ya? Muy bien, entonces los espero a todos ustedes el día viernes de 7:30 a 9:30 para continuar. Y aquellos que todavía no están inscritos, háganlo porque vamos a seguir así dándole bastante énfasis en todos los, revisando más y más casos para que ustedes puedan tener éxitos en su examen de Ministerio de Educación. Profesora Eliana, ¿qué no está en los materiales, profesora Eliana? I don't know. Materiales. Bueno, goodbye, teacher. See you, teacher. See you, teacher Eliana. Okay, thank you. Goodbye. ¿De qué? ¿De cuál, teacher Eliana? Today? Case study from today? Okay. Sure. Okay, teacher, don't worry. I'm going to include on Friday, okay? On Friday, don't worry. Okay. On Friday, teacher Eliana. On Friday, I'm going to continue with those situations. Thank you. See you on Friday. Take care, has and blessings, and goodbye. Good night. Thank you, Piaget Educa. Los espero el día viernes. Inscríbanse para continuar hasta el día del examen, para seguir juntos en este proceso.